Okay, we're live. Okay, welcome to a brand new series that I'm going to be hosting called Nansen Unsupervised. I'm going to get on influential guests each week, hopefully anyway, to talk about the market, what they got up to, and whatever else they or the chat, if you want to drop anything, thinks is interesting this week. Alongside this, I'll try and pull up some Nansen content where I can, because I need to be a good employee. So yeah, we're like an analytics platform. If you don't know, you can level up your crypto and NFT trading with it. If you want to try it out as well, we're going to have like a trial. Well, we do have a trial link and a Nansen Lite link below. So sign up for that. And yeah, I want to keep it like super interactive, super chilled. So anyone can ask anything that you want answered. Someone says when start. Hopefully it has started. Okay, and let me know any guests that you want to have on as well. So let me start. How did you end up as CMS Intern? Because I'm sure that's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah. So I guess like quick background, initially got into crypto in early 2017. It was my freshman year in college. And I was studying physics, econ, and math. But like kind of fell down the rabbit hole early on, like started learning about Bitcoin. And then once you learn about that and the fundamentals, you're like, if this works and it's real, this has real legs and opportunity. So like knew I wanted to work in crypto full time, basically just invested, traded, followed the space for a number of years. And then November of 2020, I got connected to Dan Mitashevsky, who is one of the co-founders partners at CMS through a friend, Mike Zinneman. Shout out Mike, biggest connection ever. But basically got intro to Dan, and I had 10 weeks off from school and was like, hey, I'm going to be doing a ton of crypto research on my own anyways. If you guys can just like point a finger, I'm happy to put stuff together for you. Like I'll learn faster like that and hopefully you get value. And it was a 2-minute phone call and Dan was like, all right, yeah, that works. You're good. Internship, perfect. And so I was like, oh, awesome. Basically just helped out with research, like looking at deep shit coins for like 2 months. And then ended up getting hired full time after that. So I've been with CMS since November 2020, so little under 2 years. I was hired full time onto the venture side. That's been my role ever since for the last year and a half. So that's kind of where my specialty is. Yeah, that's kind of the intern, the Twitter account. I was really just an intern at the time. I was like 6 weeks into it, and Dan is like one of like the chillest bosses you could ever ask for, and like he's like unbelievable trader, but he kind of has a personality on Twitter for like anyone who's anyone who follows CMS Holdings. And it kind of gave me like Barstool type vibes where it's like CMS Holdings. I was like, well, could there be another like maybe CMS Intern? I basically made it, like put out some dumb meme and then DM'd him. I'm like, I'll get rid of this and we'll never talk about it again if you don't like it. But like, what do you think? He's like, I love it, run with it. And just kind of like grew organically from there.
Was there like intern accounts before you started yours? Because obviously I knew about yours, but like before I started mine. But were you like the first one like pioneering this like craze that's going on at the moment? Because like interns at the moment are like everywhere. I can't like escape them. So yeah, was it like you as the star one?
Yeah, to my knowledge, yeah. I don't think there were any other intern accounts. Again, I was just trying to think of a name for like a different CMS account. I was like, well, I'm an intern. Like maybe it'd be funny if I like reply to Dan and just say, hey sir, and he's like, go get a coffee. So yeah, I think it was the first intern account.
Yeah. Did you like imagine yourself in this role? That's what I've always thought about before. Like obviously none of us imagine ourselves like in this position. One, like working in crypto, and then obviously being like someone who just like makes memes every day. And like obviously we do a bit more than that, and like we'll probably go into like what we actually do, because I don't just post. Obviously I post some like data stuff as well. But did you imagine like ending up in this position? Was there like a passion when you were younger that like business or something? Because that was kind of like me. I really liked technology and like innovation, so I can kind of see how I ended up here. But for long periods, I thought crypto was a scam and like a drug dealing market, like I'm sure everyone else. So I never thought I'd actually work in here. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, imagine like here where it's like part of the role now is like shit posting on Twitter. Like, definitely not.
Yeah.
There was no like plan or strategy to be like, let's become like a meme account. It honestly just kind of like really. So during my internship, CMS was talking in our like company chat. They're like, we should really hire like a full-time meme guy. Like, they're like, we love the content. It would be funny, and if anything, like good for the brand. Like, I was just like doing research on shitcoins. I'm like by far the youngest guy in there. It was basically like, I'll try. Like, I can I can follow meme accounts and just try to like remix. And then yeah, like basically just started making memes there. And Dan was like, yeah, run with this. Like, I love it. And but yeah, there was no like passion. I never studied content or marketing or anything like that.
Yeah, I think in like that same thing, how did like you end up, it sounds like such a dumb question, but how did you end up in like being good at this kind of meme game? Because there is like a strategy behind it, like the same thing as like your account being big and like my account now growing and like relatively big. Like there is some kind of method behind it. And do you ever like look back, like sometimes I used to watch so many stupid shows and like stupid like podcasts. And I think that kind of actually does contribute to like how you get to this position. Like it's a unique role, and I know a lot of people are probably like, how do you end up in the position that we are? Because we're quite fortunate, and I've even though it's an intern has like a special meaning nowadays in crypto. So how do you ever look back and like how did you end up here? Is there like some things that you kind of look back on and it makes sense now that like you're here or not?
I would say almost none of it makes sense. Like the role that we run is like, this was not even a job like 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's honestly just like kind of part of like crypto Twitter culture. Like, it's like baked in, right? Like you see someone post a meme and it like, if it clicks well, like it almost hits like a core vein, right? And then you like if you post a good picture, you see someone post like a good shit post meme, like it just makes you laugh and you like it, and it like builds community and culture. Yeah, I'm sure there's like a science behind it and you could try to study it, but I really think just like literally scrolling Twitter and be like, oh, this is funny, like what about this idea, like let's mash them together.
I think like the sector is quite unique as well, and I think like Dan is probably quite similar in terms of like Alex as my like CEO. Like I think it's just normal for Web3. It's very chilled out, and it's not like very formal. You're not all like wearing suits. You can't post anything that's slightly controversial. And I think that's like a really attractive part of it to me as well. I've always been someone who likes to challenge kind of traditions and go against like the normality, I guess, of stuff. Is that kind of the same as you? Is that why you were like wanted to get into crypto? Is it more the tech and
Yeah. So I would say like it wasn't on purpose, but it kind of lined up well. Like, I kind of have always had like a distaste for authority. Like, once you have one bad experience where like you see someone who's in a position of power like making decisions and you just know like their thought process and it's not correct, you're like, there shouldn't just be trust there, right? So I think the culture behind crypto is like awesome for that reason. Like, it's literally built around like trust but verify. And it's definitely more attractive than like the TradFi, put on your suit, like be in the office at 7 o'clock and try to like be there before everyone, and like the formality. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of stuffy, right? Like, it's great. I'll just go to the office like in like this FTX shirt and like shorts, and I show up in Dan's wearing like some like portfolio company merch. Like, it's I don't know. I definitely think that it's attractive. I would say I got in it for the tech, but like the awesome culture around it is definitely like a pull.
I wanted to like, obviously we'll move on to like about the market, but if you just to like finish off our positions and like what we do, what would your advice be? And then maybe I'll give mine to like someone trying to get into maybe an intern role or just Web3 in general. Obviously you've moved on as like an intern into the more like venture stuff. So again, maybe you have a perspective on how you'd get into that, or like to work for CMS, for example.
Yeah. I mean, I would say there's kind of two things and they go hand in hand. And I think a lot of people in crypto are good at it, but like understanding like EV, expected value, and like being able to make decisions on it. Like Sam Trabucco talks about it all the time. I think his brain is literally just like an EV calculator. But like I think like what I said to Dan to get in initially was basically just like I will work for free. Like I understand the value of this experience, and like I think it would be awesome. Like the short term money is not really something you want to chase, right? Like you want to be in a good network, like doing a job that you like and being able to add value. So like if I was someone trying to break in, like I would literally follow the same playbook. I'd be like, this is an awesome firm. Reach out to like either the head of the company or someone that you might have a connection with and be like, I'm like, this is what I'm interested in. I'm gonna do it for free for you guys. Like if you point the finger and show me what you want work done on, like I'll just do it. And like it's hard to say no, right? Like it's hard to pitch like, hey, can I have an internship or an entry level position? I want to make this much money. It's really easy to just say, like, shoot me 3 things that are interesting or could add value, and then just like go grind it out, like put in the hours and send it back. And like after a while they'll just be like, this makes sense. This kid is good. He understands what he's doing. Like he's valuable now. So like once you add value, then you can kind of get compensated for it. But I would definitely say for foot in the door, like offer up work for free. Like just try to get in the door by thinking in their shoes, like the person you want to be hired by. Be like, what's the easiest possible thing that this person could accept and just say yes to, and then from there you can kind of work your way into whatever role. But yeah, I would say the work for free, intern for free, and just add value is like kind of a cheat code, honestly.
I think I completely agree, and like I was someone who was like very money driven, and like always have been. And then once I like saw this role and saw the ability to kind of work in Web3, I guess it kind of changed it a bit. So when you have the decision to go and work in TradFi, for instance, like you can get paid a lot of money, of course, but then you sell like your soul away basically and work like 16 hours a day, and it's horrible. If you then take a compromise, and like that's why especially I was happy to go for like an intern role. I was like, I don't mind earning like less money to then get in like an entry into something that I really enjoy, because essentially I was doing this for free anyway in like my personal life. So you actually kind of end up doing like an internship before doing your internship, like unpaid. Like I spent like a whole year like really grinding crypto and like building a profile and like a personal brand is what I was going to say. So you kind of actually have to do, I can't see many ways where you get a job without doing some kind of like free work beforehand, especially like an entry level one anyway. Other things that I would say is I think just like hone in on like what your skill is. Don't try and be like master of everything. You can't be like GCR trading and then also be like some incredible social media person. I feel like it's just not possible. You need to specialize on what you're actually good at, and then try and focus on that and go for that. And don't apply to like every crypto job just because it's a crypto job. Like you're not going to get everything. And yeah, so I'd just say work really hard towards like one specific role, and yeah, don't be like pushed away because you're not getting paid much or whatever. That's not at all a big deal, especially when you're quite young, like in your 20s. So yeah, I think that's all the content. If anyone has any questions for us that's related to our roles, just put it in the chat. That's fine. What I wanted to ask you before I forget is, and we just had a conversation about it, why have you got that penguin PFP and why is it not Pudgy penguin?
A Pudgy one? I know, I have the skinny penguin. I feel like I've missed out. If you go and look at the CMS logo, like I remember it was like this first week that I was an intern. And we were talking about the logo, and they're like, I love how it's a sneaky penguin. Like if you look at it, you can kind of see he's got like his flipper up a little bit. So then when I was making the account, I was like, well, people do animals. Like it's going to be pseudo anonymous, right? I was like, well, CMS is already kind of the penguin, so I'll just like put a penguin on it. And I put it on, it looked like goofy and kind of funny, and was like, all right, this works. Just went from there. The Pudgy penguin, God, I coped so hard over those. I know like when Jeebus was initially tweeting about them, it was like 11 p.m. I was about to fall asleep and saw like someone had tagged me like, hey, these penguin NFTs, like you should get one, right? You're a penguin. It was like 0.06 ETH floor. And I was like, yeah, like I like these. I'll get one tomorrow. Like it makes sense, right? Penguins respect penguins. And then I woke up the next morning, it was 0.3 ETH floor. I was like, oh, I missed it. I can't believe I missed the pump. And then basically coped for like 2 weeks straight as it just grinded higher. Got up to like whatever the floor, it was like 3 ETH or above that. I was like, I'm never going to live this down if these become like punks and they're ripping. And I just like, I do have one now though. He's got a little bow tie and hat. I might, yeah, after I might
for
throw
one day
as a profile picture for a day. I'll do it for a day.
Yeah. Then we can say, I've convinced you for one day. Is this someone at CMS? It says Jack McCordick says it was the first NFT you had massive FOMO on. Does he know you, or is he just in your mind?
Jack McCordick is my little brother, actually. He's Delphi Intern on Twitter, so shout out Jack. He said he's taking notes on this one too, so we'll have some notes to retweet out here. Yeah.
So your brother works for Delphi or Delphi, as you're supposed to call it. I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, he interned them last summer. And then he's double interning again this summer. But yeah, he runs a Delphi intern account. Yeah, he's pretty connected. He's trying to get more in the meme game.
Okay, so I want to get him on. Yeah, I want to get him on in the future. Definitely. I think I asked in this like same thing as well. I think you put a tweet out or someone did about your decision. It like goes well into like about a punk or a house. And I wanted to talk to you about that, not only for that question, but also like because we were talking before about the value of like money in crypto and how it just completely skews everything. So yeah, I'd like to get your take on what you're going to do, punk or house. And then what do you think about like how money just gets completely screwed up in your mind by crypto, like everything kind of loses value. Yeah.
So the punk thing, I've actually been eyeing it for like 4 or 5 months now. Like even when I joined, I like heard about the crypto punks. I was like, this is cool. And then when NFTs blew up, I'm like, damn, like crypto, like they started NFTs, right? Like they're like the inspiration for the ERC 721. Like if NFTs will be relevant in any capacity in the future, like punks will hold value there. They're like the Bitcoin for NFTs. So for like the last 5 months, stuff was going down. And basically my thought was that like NFTs would trade somewhat like Ethereum from 2017 to 2021, where like it's basically all speculation and people kind of lose interest in it and it just like drops way off. So I was pretty much waiting. I'm like, all right, punks, I'm going to have an opportunity watching the floor. Like they're going to trade down in ETH, people forget, and then I can scoop one. And then when we come back, hopefully they're still relevant. And so that was my thesis. They got all the way down to 50 ETH, which was like 50 grand, down from almost like $500,000. And pretty much I was like, all right, this is the time. I think they're going to trade down in ETH more. And then the next day there was like a $3 million ape sale and they mooned to now that thing floor is like 130 grand, like 80 ETH, 80, 90 ETH. But yeah, so pretty much I was like, damn, I missed a trade. But then what always happens in crypto is you think you missed a trade, you wait for it to come back down, and then it keeps mooning in your face. So I was pretty much like, I just got to pull it now and just buy it at market price because I'll cope forever if they actually go up. And I was right and I missed it. So I was pretty much like running through that at the office, like the thought process. And Dan was like, dude, like that's a down payment for a house. Like you're homeless. You're literally a homeless person, and you're trying to buy a punk. And we got in this long conversation, like how the down payment for like a good house is literally the same as a punk. And then my current intern now, Mark, is the one who put out that tweet. That was like a house versus punk. It's like house, pretty terrible PFP. Like there's way more than 10,000. So now it's kind of like an ongoing joke now. They're like, when are you going to buy the punk? And Dan's like, you're going to be homeless. Like, but yeah,
Wait,
we'll
what's
I'm
your
still watching the
interns?
floor.
What's your interns account? I don't know if I follow them. I want to follow them after.
Yeah, it's
Is it CMS
Mark
Intern?
No, I have the handle. Okay. He didn't really want to run with it. I was like, all right,
wow.
Do whatever you want. But yeah, it's Mark M. Bissell. He's the one who tweeted the house thing.
Okay,
I'll
follow him
so you can check and find it easily.
Yeah, I'll follow him after this. Okay, and then let's. Oh well, actually, I wanted to give my perspective actually on like the destruction of like value of money. So I think because like we do this like all the time, and like every day we're looking at crypto, you're like buying, selling. I just thought it's like an interesting point to make on like how they just get like destroyed in your mind. So like when I'm into like some NFT or something, let's say for like 200-300. I just think it's so weird that like you can mint an NFT, or even if I'm like longing or shorting something, I lose like 200-300. I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. And then you like go to buy something in real life, or you like go to buy like food in real life, and it's like £20 from where I am, and you're like, what the hell? Like that's way too expensive. And I just feel like we feel like completely skewed our mind. But then at the same time, I don't know about you, but for crypto, I've always felt like it's really helped me to save money. Like that sounds ridiculous because obviously we're all like losing money, but like I don't buy dumb stuff anymore, and I think that's because of crypto. Like it's kind of a good and a bad thing. I used to be a lot more like it at the start. I was like, should I buy this whatever, when actually that's worth like, I don't know, point something of Ethereum, and I could just buy Ethereum, which is so dumb. But I remember that happening like all the time, and that because of that, I ended up like saving money a lot more. So has your like money habits changed over time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the exact same thing as you, right? Like you kind of learn about crypto, and then a lot of your mind is just like I can put this in Ethereum, or buy these shoes, right? And you're like, I already have shoes. I'd rather have exposure. But it gets so like exactly what you were saying, right? You look at like a Pudgy paying right now, you're like, 2.7 ETH, like relative, that's really like you could spare 2.7 ETH, right? But then you think about it, you're like, it's like $4,000. Like you could the stuff you could buy with $4,000 in real life is like that's a lot of money. You're like, damn, it's for a profile picture. Like it gets so out of whack. The punk thing was brutal because Dan was like, that's literally a house. Like, what are you doing? It's like, shoot. But I feel like a lot of the people who really get good and like make it though, like that's part of the reason. Because like if you don't kind of bet big on certain things, and you probably don't like get a big return, right? So like a lot of people that really make it, they're like, you have to completely separate like your crypto bets and like real life spending. But it whacks you out if you think about it in real life terms.
Yeah, you have to be like high conviction. I think it's kind of especially true for crypto. If you over diversify as well, you're going to lose out. So you have to be quite conviction, highly convicted in something. And that actually pulls me onto like a good topic that I wanted to ask you next. So we'll talk about the market in general. But what is, and I think I know the answer, because I want to talk to you about Solana. So what is like the main token they're interested in, and is it Solana, and why, if it is?
I would say currently it's ETH, because I hold way too much right now because trying to pick off the punk floor. Yeah, I mean, I think Solana is super interesting right now. And like it's hard, right? Because if you go and look, if you like search Solana in Twitter, right, you basically just get like two camps completely called. Like no one really does research. They're just like, oh, like this is all VC insider stuff.
Mhm.
and like I hate it. Or you get people who are like Solana is
Mhm.
the future. I love it. Like if you like dive in, right? Like they're probably about halfway through with this new rollout. Like, and people always chirp the chain. They're like, oh, it goes down. Like Twitter goes down. They're like, I can't
Mhm.
believe Twitter's
Yeah.
running on Solana now. But like they're introducing a fee market and
Mhm.
basically like updates to how the validators talk to each other, and it should be like awesome, honestly, for reliability and like preventing
Mhm.
bots and spamming and chain performance in general. So like I think the tech there is great, and then just from like a trading standpoint, um, I don't know. I think it's like a higher beta name, right? So if like stuff actually does pump off the floor, like I would probably expect Solana to pump the hardest
Mhm.
um, out of like the majors, of course. But like I don't know. We'll see. It's if you use it right, like it is a really good chain to use. And then obviously I can already
Mhm.
see the comments coming in, like yeah, when you can use it, right? Because it's down all the time. But no, I tweeted out like I really didn't buy crypto for like a full year, and then Solana was
Mhm.
down in like the 30s. I was like, no one is accounting for the fact that the chain's actually going to work and like TPS is going
Yeah.
to go up and it'll be good.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I do like that play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
kind of
like
where I
it as a
stand on that.
play.
And the phone.
I like it as a yeah, and the forward exactly. I like it as a play. Obviously, I would also meme on it, and I would make the jokes that like it's always down because you have to that's what the game is. But
Yeah.
I like it because like those things can be easily fixed. Well, not easily fixed. Those things I'm pretty confident will be fixed in the future. It's not like a make or break situation or anything like that. And then I like the phone more as like a reason of them being innovative and them trying different things, and also them trying to meet mainstream demand or try and create mainstream demand. So more than like the actual function of the phone, because the phone is like building apps like from the phone right on Solana, and like you can use it as a wallet and all of this. And like my personal view is the phone actually going to be very good? I'm not sure. They say it will be. Like I listened to some podcast. I think it was Bankless, and they were like, "Yeah, the phone is going to be actually good as well." That part I'm not so confident on because I feel
Yeah.
like you're a crypto company. Is your phone actually going to be good? But I just really like that they're innovating. I wasn't like always a Solana fan, and I am actually probably ETH maxi over anything for sure. But I like also just the whole narrative of like something competing with the leader, and I think most people like the kind of underdog situation, which to me makes it investable. In terms of like, if it's an underdog, there's always going to be people who like chase that and support it. So I feel like it has a good foundation to build from. So I'm like bullish on ETH, exactly the same as you. Just by coincidence, we're not like an intern alpha group.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're
The
chilling
pay
out
group.
bags, but yeah, I'm actually mainly on ETH as well, or like bullish on ETH, and then Solana, and then I see everyone talking about GMX, which I've completely faded. I don't know if you know about them. I'm going to try and get people on who do know about that coin because I don't.
Yeah.
I think I watched an up only. It was like Flood Capital, that guy talking about it, and I was like, oh shit, okay, like they're the one that's actually profitable. So I need to check that out. Yeah, but mainly Sol and
Yeah.
ETH for me, if anyone's interested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know
Being
anything about GMX?
profitable in not a ton, but
Yeah.
I will say being profitable as a crypto company is like
Yeah.
completely out of whack with how the rest of it works. So
Yeah.
now I mean I think the phone, there's a lot of interesting things, right? Like when they initially announced the phone, like your gut reaction is like, are they trying to like jump the shark right now? Like, why are you bringing in a phone? Like,
Yeah.
why? And then you think about it and you're like, well, mobile is like obviously the way of the world, right? Like, that's the way it's going. Um, Currently, trying to do mobile crypto stuff is like brutal. So having
Hmm.
it built in and then also having a hardware wallet attached to it, like right now, like pretty much anyone, right? Like you have your phone and your like wallet, like your physical wallet with cards and cash.
Hmm.
Like it wouldn't be that big of a leap to be like, yeah, you have your phone and then this is like your financial phone. Like this is where you have all your
Hmm.
NFTs, you store your money, you can pay with it, right? Like if they have Solana Pay integration, you just literally scan your
Yeah.
phone, you'll be good. So like there is a crazy upside. I don't if you flipped a coin, right? Like
Mhm.
I would say there's probably around that chance that it's actually like successful. Like it's hard to launch a good phone. Um,
Yeah.
but if it is, it's a massive opportunity, right? So like I like the kind of the EV calculation there.
Mhm. I think like when I was listening to that podcast, what I think was interesting is like they were talking about the operating system being like what they want to show off. So they were kind of pitching it as, and maybe ambitious, that they made this phone or they'll make this phone, and if they can push like why you need a web-free phone, then they might get like contacted by, let's say, Apple about like iPhones, and they'll have to get involved because once they see like a lot of people using it for whatever reason, NFTs, wallets, building applications, then they'll get people like to actually take notice, like Apple and I guess Android companies as well. So it's like a push, which is what I think Web2 companies need. Like Web2 companies don't listen to us. Like that's all from what I understand. It's just kind of like, okay, that sounds like a load of fairy dust, you know. So you have to actually show them a product that works. So that's why I like it as well. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on Sol, but am I bullish on the market? We'll talk about that in a second, because
Yeah.
then it doesn't really matter. But I thought I'd quickly show, because I have to be a good Nansen employee, that we do actually have Solana NFT data. So if anyone's interested in looking at Solana NFTs, I don't know if you've bought a Solana NFT, have you?
That yes, those I was
You
almost
have?
like fully Solana NFTs. Those were like some of the best trades I've ever made early on.
Really?
Um, the experience is like pretty good, right? Like they were a lot
Yeah.
cheaper. It was like August of last year. The Degen 8 mint was like the big like debut. There were some NFTs
Yeah.
before, but it was like this is the first really good NFT, and we all went
Mhm.
and minted them. And like they hit the floor like 10x and Solana like 4x in the process. So we're like, oh my god. And then there was basically like a bonanza of Solana minting and like botting. Like there's
Yeah.
literal wars about this stuff. Um, I like Solana NFTs. I like Solana for a gaming chain, I guess, and I think
Mhm.
NFTs fit in very well with gaming. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty bullish there.
Yeah, I think so as well. And again, it's the same thing of like I feel like there has to be a underdog or something that can compete with ETH. And what is that going to be? Probably Solana. Hopefully that doesn't annoy everyone on like Avalanche and stuff. But if I was to guess, it would probably be that. So yeah, let's talk about our takes on the market currently. So obviously we've had a bit of a rally recently, and so straight up, do you think that the bottom is in, and why?
The I feel like there's no good answer here, right? So I would say my take on it is that I don't like there are people that move trillions of dollars around and they're macro
Mhm.
experts, right? Like they understand all of it. So in my eyes, right, like if they're pricing in, if they kind of set the standard prices for all the macro stuff, like they
Mhm.
know better than I do, whether it's bullish or bearish or where we go next. So I almost treat like the macro environment as kind of neutral. So
Mhm.
then within like neutral macro, I would say crypto specific, um, we just saw like basically the largest string of selling and liquidations to have ever
Yeah.
occurred, like nominally
Mhm.
by far in crypto, right? Like Luna like nuked like $60 billion worth of value. That
Yeah.
blew up a ton of people. 3AC just blew up. They like there's a ton of selling to kind of cover a ton of companies
Mhm.
going bankrupt. And then pretty much like I think there was kind of this nuke that dropped and now the dust is kind of settling away and we don't know if another one's
Mhm.
going to come. But I feel like pretty much anyone who was over levered like got nuked out. And so
Mhm.
I think there's a ton of selling. So I'd say oversold there. Um,
Mhm.
so like crypto specific, I would say it's too
Yeah.
low. So like I'm long here. Um,
Mhm.
the macro is probably going to be the main variable that determines if that's right or wrong.
Mhm.
But I'd say if you have a neutral view on macro, like I don't know how Powell's gonna, if he's gonna absolutely rip the band-aid off, or like if this goes on, like rate increases for like
Mhm.
5 years and we really get smoked. But like understanding that I don't know that, I do know that crypto's had like billions and billions of dollars just dumped and unloaded by people that didn't want to sell, but they had to. So I like crypto in general down here. Yeah. So I will say, I feel like it's more entertaining if I put the stamp on it. So I will say bottom is in.
Okay, wow. Okay, nice. I am similar. I think I'm maybe someone who's more cautious about the economy. I think we had this conversation yesterday. So I am like in complete agreement that if this was like only crypto focused and like I wasn't really looking at the macro stuff, I would be very tempted to say that the bottom's in. Like because we shed so many people out, like 3AC, Celsius, BlockFi, Elon Musk sold the other day, which I thought was bullish, to be honest. So he's gone, like paper-handed, and now we don't have to worry about that, and we're still above 20k. So I was like pretty positive on that news. I know everyone like some reason freaks out as if he's like about to sell. So I think my view is, so I watched, if anyone wants to watch, I shouldn't probably show like another podcast, but if you ever want to look at what's it called, Blockworks podcast recently with Lynn Olden, it's a really good watch. She mentions basically about the macro economy, which I thought was a good metaphor in terms of like the economy moving forward kind of seems like pushing a beach ball into a swimming pool. So when the beach ball is like inflation, so the Fed will keep like pushing it down, but it will keep rising up. So I think and like this is what I kind of thought as well. It feels like supply chain issues in the economy are so bad, and it will take a long time for them to fix. That inflation will probably just soar for like a few years. And how do you deal with that? Like you said, we don't know. But it seems more like they're just going to temporarily try and get it down with like higher rates or whatever. But in reality, you're pushing it against like a really strong current going upwards. So I'm like, I think my view is the bottom could be in, but I don't see like the 2021 or 2020 as well, like run up of just unlimited money, like pumping crazy money into the economy. There's no cap on inflation. Like that was probably like once in a generation to get that level of growth in such a short time. So I could see us grinding up or going up slowly. I just can't see that crazy growth. And I think we both had a conversation in terms of like the one thing that feels like looming over crypto at the moment is the S&P. So if you have a look at the S&P chart, anyone, it doesn't look great. But then if you compare to all the forced selling in crypto, I don't know. Yeah. So what is your view? I know we've said it before, but about the S&P, to me, it looks like it has a long way to go, which is the main worry that I've got. Yeah.
That's the one chart that scares me looking at it. Cause you look at crypto and you zoom out on ETH, you're like, we're so low. Like everything is smoked. Like this is, you always try to buy the bottom, right? Like that's buy the dips is like our mantra. But you look at the S&P and you're like, we're like still higher than the peak from like 2 years ago pre-COVID. So that one, it feels like if you keep cutting rates, like that could absolutely keep dropping. But yeah, so I don't know, that's a scary chart. That's the one thing when I get too bullish, I look at it, I'm like, all right, true. Like this could absolutely keep falling. Like it really hasn't dipped too hard. I mean, it's not at all-time highs by any means, but I don't know, that one, I would say like if there's like 10 random variables that kind of go into my gut feel for if we're too low or if stuff is too high, I would say like 7 or 8 of them are saying like, yeah, it's low, like this is a good buying opportunity. But there's 2 or 3 of them that are like, no, like we're going to get smoked. And S&P is certainly like a strong factor there.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think we have to see, but I think the risk reward, I guess, of right now is pretty good. It was so bad like a couple months ago in terms of longing. But yeah, it's a lot better now. And that's like all you can kind of base things off. Before we go on to the next thing I want to talk about, we have a question, which I think is quite good. How good was your knowledge, or it says of Nansen or CMS? So if we start with you, before you started interning? I think that's quite an interesting question.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Nansen?
Oh, I can go first. Okay. I knew a lot about Nansen. I didn't use it a lot, but I used a lot of like analytics stuff altogether, and tried to be like semi-decent at being like on-chain. I don't want to be that person. On-chain analyst, I'm not that. But I became a lot better with Nansen. So I had like some experience of doing it. What my knowledge of Nansen was more than anything was the team. Obviously, I owned a Penguin, so I knew about the CEO, and I just knew about the culture. I liked how Alex would tweet. It was like very free and like free speaking, which I thought was an attractive factor. And yeah, so basically, I knew more about the team than necessarily the product. Sorry, but I think more importantly, I knew most things about crypto and like NFT. I had quite a wide-ranging knowledge, more than maybe like a specific one, which is good because our product is amazing for both NFTs and crypto. So yeah, I think that helped me a lot. What about you?
Yeah. So I knew the Twitter handle. Basically, when I was like trying to figure out what would be a good spot, like I saw Dan's tweets and was like, this would be awesome. And before I talked to him, like I said, it was a 2-minute conversation, so I probably did too much homework. But like I went back and checked like any podcast with CMS. So like there's one where Dan speaks, there's one Bobby Cho is one of the other partners and founders. So basically listen to like all of their podcasts. So I had like a good understanding. I didn't know from the inside, of course, because hadn't been there, but like, I mean, if this is a question based around like someone trying to figure out how they can get foot in the door, like absolutely, like do more homework than you think you should. And like, it's easy to listen to a podcast, like go outside, touch grass for an hour, have your headphones in. But yeah, like as much, like you should have a very strong context of the company that you're talking to, and especially the person you're talking to, because it'll only help the conversation, and it shows that you're driven and like you take it seriously.
I think that's a good point as well. Like I didn't mention that, but like when I actually was like, I'm going to apply for Nansen, I spent ages looking at the company. I even like, maybe it's a bit weird, I looked to their LinkedIn. If I knew that I was going to be interviewed by someone, I'd like have a look at like what they did in the past, so then you can understand like maybe what they'd like. Which I'm sorry to everyone that interviewed me. But yeah, these things make a big difference, because it shows that you actually done work, and which is always a good trait in everything. And also, I came into the interviews like very confident that they couldn't ask me anything that would like completely throw me off, at least. And I think that's a huge factor. Like I couldn't emphasize that enough. I've had interviews in the past where I just haven't like I didn't really want the job. So then you don't actually do any research into the company. You go into the interview and you're just like, you don't know anything. You feel super unconfident. You don't get it, obviously. But I really, really wanted this job. I spent ages researching it. So if you really want it, don't let yourself down, basically, by having low knowledge of the company. Because if you want it, you need to do everything. It's only like a couple of weeks of interviews or something like that. So it's worth just going all out for that. Any other questions? Someone says, what's your favorite CT account? Good question. Do you know yours?
I mean, I have I have like a bunch of favorites. It's hard to say an absolute favorite. I mean, I want to shout out Ledger Status, I guess. I think he's one of like the funniest guys, especially when he tries not to be. And someone made that like Ledger funny. Grandma bot. That one's awesome. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out who Fu is. That's like more than anything crypto. That's like the biggest. I know he's Che. I don't know. How about you? What are some of your favorites?
That's such an interesting point, because like I was going to say Fu is like one of my favorites. Someone put in the comments, so your brother says, say down or you're fired.
At CMS Holdings is my favorite Twitter account. Absolutely.
Someone says Fu is Degen Spartan. But someone put Inverse Bra, and I think that is my favorite, I'd say. That guy cracks me up. Yeah, 100%. And he retweets some of my stuff, so he gets pushed to the top spot. I'm trying to think who else. I like your account. Yeah.
Thank
How
you.
do you say it? Kaleo? Yeah, I
I've
like
heard
him a lot as
Kaleo
well.
and Kalia. Yeah.
Yeah, I like your account. I like all the intern accounts. They all make me laugh. Yeah, anything that's like really insightful. There's a guy who's really underrated. I can't remember his actual handle, but it's like Alto. Posts a lot of like on-chain stuff. I think one of my favorites. Yeah, anyone on-chain, obviously I like, but that's unique probably to me. And anyone that's funny, any meme stuff. I like light-hearted anything. So yeah, let's talk about one specific thing that like blew up the market, because I think you had a really interesting view on it, which is Luna and UST. So what is your take on it? And yeah, so if I say what my take is, because it's not a good take, is I faded Luna so hard. I thought the top was in like 50 times. So I just never really paid attention to it. So I didn't know much about it. I had a really basic understanding. So I'm like that classic reply guy, hindsight trader, who will be like, it was obvious in terms of like the death spiral. But I think you have a much more interesting perspective of, was it actually obvious? And like, was there a universe where it wouldn't have happened?
Yeah. Yeah, I think my take, like a lot of it, people just love hindsight bias, right? And to say it was
Yeah.
obvious, like this is pure Ponzi scheme. Everyone can see it. Like, how could you get wrecked by this? Um, I don't know. I do think like people. So I think the main thing that I would say is different is a lot of people just have the assumption now that it's at zero, is that it was a foregone conclusion that Luna was a Ponzi scheme and it would go to zero. Um, I don't think that that's true. Like, I think if you mess with a couple of variables, like there was an actual chance that it could have succeeded in its goal, right? The problem is you minted so much UST, and the only reason that people wanted UST was to farm it in Anchor. So something we were really watching at CMS was like, how much UST exists, how much of it is in Anchor, and what's the market cap of Luna. So like once it got too heavy and there was too much UST being farmed out, like that's when we were kind of like, all right, it's too top heavy, it'll collapse, and it's like trade accordingly. Um, but people love to, like there are universes, right, where
Mhm.
like it gets big, like say like South Korea starts accepting UST as payment in certain, for like certain merchants start accepting it as an actual stable coin. Then there's organic demand for UST. There is an actual use case. It could really work, and Luna would go to a bajillion dollars. Um, the problem is that that didn't exist, and the anchor rate was probably too high at 20%. Um, but like there are, like I just think the dunking on it in hindsight, it's like
Yeah.
if you had seen it coming, right, like then you wouldn't be working. And shout out
Mhm.
to um, GCR, I think, who made the gigantic public bet that it would
Yeah.
go to zero. Um,
He is like
but
a beast. I think he
yeah,
actually, that's a really good point. So when someone was saying, what's your favorite CT accounts? Like, it's got to be him. Him and Inverse Bra for me are like definitely in the top three. He's like, I don't know, man. I swear GCI is like in a different universe. The guy is like, it just doesn't miss. I swear. I can't remember seeing a trade like that he's done badly on. But yeah, sorry, I like
yeah.
cut you off with that bit. Reminded me.
No, yeah. I mean, it was like an unbelievable public call out, and
Yeah.
people were like giving him so much shit for it, and then like he turned out to be right, and it was awesome.
Mhm.
Now if
What
Dope,
is
or I guess it's in an escrow account, so he's gonna get paid out. But
yeah?
I don't know.
What is
I
like
just think that,
your
sorry.
sorry? I was gonna say, what is your view, like related to this on like Do Kwon? Did you think is very similar to like Suzu, where they, because I think people are split in terms of thinking, were they just complete scammers, and like obviously not scammers in the actual sense, but were they just reckless and they didn't give a shit about like anyone, or were they just like super bullish and they were like completely high conviction on what they were doing? Like did Do Kwon actually think UST was like going to change the world? Did Suzu really think that there was a super cycle? And yeah, was it actually genuine? What's your take on that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's split. Like I think to more of an extent than people give them credit. Like they really were drinking their own Kool-Aid, right? Like Su Su,
Yeah.
I really think that he believed in this super cycle, and he levered up in position for it. Like he wouldn't have blown up on purpose, like just for the story. He really did. Well, to be fair, there's also like fraud and other factors that went into it. But I
Yeah.
do think he was just like a moon boy like anyone else and just like
Mhm.
went crazy long and the market went against
Mhm.
him. Like there again, there is a universe, right, where like say
Mhm.
the market doesn't get absolutely smashed, and it actually does keep going up, where Su Su is like this unbelievable billionaire, owns like all these products, and no one goes
Mhm.
under. The problem is that it is reckless, right? If you have all these uncollateralized loans and then it goes against you, like
Mhm.
you're losing all of your money, you're losing all of your investors' money, you're creating a gigantic void in the crypto market.
Mhm.
Um, but like I don't think that he's a scammer, and I think well that's not true. I guess because of the actual fraud and the stuff out there now, you're certainly scamming
Yeah.
on one level. I don't think that he was like blowing up on purpose. I think that he really did
Mhm.
believe in the super cycle, and just wanted to
Mhm.
be as positioned forward as possible. I think with Do Kwon, he probably saw both scenarios playing out,
Yeah.
where he's like, there is a chance, right, that this tips over and then it goes to
Mhm.
zero. There's also a chance that this becomes fundamentally one of the most important um, pieces of infrastructure in crypto, where we have
Mhm.
this UST algorithmic stablecoin. Again, right now we have the hindsight bias, didn't work, everyone lost like their life savings, and it was terrible. Um, but I think he really was trying to build the project and like saw the vision of it succeeding. And a lot of really, really smart people also did, right? Like there are people who invested tons of money into Luna who've been in the space for so long. Like Novogratz has a literal Luna tattoo on his shoulder that will
Yeah.
have for the rest of his life, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think he did it for like exit liquidity. Like I think people
Mhm.
really do believe in these things. Um, like there's no like secret mastermind chat where like everyone's scheming against you.
No.
It's
Mhm.
just like this is the project and it got so big, like that spotlight is probably so intense that you start to lose touch a little bit with like the reality of the situation. So I
Mhm.
think that might have happened, but I don't think either case was like pure evil, let's nuke everything, right? Like they really did believe in what they were doing. They just now with the benefit of hindsight, they just failed.
Yeah. I think it's like really interesting. For Su Su, like I'm of the mind that, like you, there seems like a lot of dodgy stuff was happening, but I
For
think
sure.
it was for the purpose of just longing like the shit out of the market because they felt that it was like actually the right thing to do. So they genuinely did feel like it was a super cycle. Why wouldn't you long? But I think the thing that confuses me for both cases, like 3AC and Do Kwon. So Greg in the chat, who works for us, actually says like in another universe, Su is a trillionaire right now, and I think he actually did
Yes.
think that. But the thing that confuses me is they are two or three, obviously, if you include Kyle, like Do Kwon, Su Su, Kyle. All three of them, obviously, very smart people. Like I know they've completely liquidated everything, but they're obviously smart people. Like how long had 3AC been about? Like 10 years or something, or they've been in crypto for a while. I am so confused, and what just doesn't make sense to me is how they could not have seen like the pullback. I don't think you'll rarely ever get a more clear um, like recession, if to say that, because you'd never had the case of the last 2 years where money is like pumping into the economy, super artificial, um, so unique. Everyone was like stuck inside, and then they come back out. They've got a load of money to spend and whatever. Um, there's gonna have to be a pullback from that. It's like an elastic band, you know. If you just completely overextend it, how can they not have seen that? I don't get. And then for Do Kwon, how can he not have understood? I know it's hindsight trading, but he's like the founder. How can he not have understood the like tokenomics and system of his whole project? Which, like, as soon as you depeg, there wasn't even it like by nature, right? It goes to zero. It was like you can basically arb between Luna and UST, so you just keep selling Luna until it's worth nothing, which happened. So I'm so confused on that. I think Do Kwon, I think the intentions might be different. Like Do Kwon, what was he trying to do? I think he was actually trying to make something like amazing. I don't know if he was ever money driven, like 3AC, obviously, because they're different purposes. But I think it's another thing that, like what we talked about earlier, why are they chasing money so hard when they're like ridiculously rich? So I think it's just a case of it becomes a game. Why do you need to be max long and not hedge anything that you're investing on like they did? Because it's this game of like, let's chase to the highest number. Numbers don't mean anything at that point. Like he's got two £50 million houses. You don't need another house. Like you bought that yacht, which is like a meme, but like you don't need that extra money. And I think someone put a interesting tweet like, it seems as if Suzu and Kyle were just trying to legitimately become like the richest people on earth. Like I think that was their intention. Like they probably looked at Elon Musk and CZ, probably Sam, and they're like, we're going to take that spot. How are we going to do that? We're just going to go all in on something that they genuinely believe was going to happen, which I don't understand. That we were just going to somehow zoom. I know their super cycle wasn't like we won't have any dips, but they didn't see a crash coming, which seems kind of wild to me. Yeah, sorry, I spoke a lot there. Do you have any takes on that?
No, I mean, I think you're spot on, right? And like obviously
Yeah.
that turned out to actually be the scenario. And now we have meme content for days, but like people lost so much money because of the actions of like a couple people here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'll kind of go in reverse order, I guess, because that's the one that I
Yeah.
remember it in. For Do Kwon, like um, I do think he kind of just got fascinated with his own vision and saw how
Mhm.
well it was doing, and like number basically went up in a straight line for like months
Mhm.
on end. Um, I think he understood that the depegging and like those were always the things that people were calling him out on. Those would be the but his
Yeah.
replies would be like super some egotistical
Yeah.
like you don't get it, like you're an idiot, like basically just calling people out. Um, but I did, like I said, like I think there is a universe where it actually does work. Macro went against at the same time, like a couple things lined up and absolutely blew him up. Um, yeah, I think on that front, like it was just a founder fascinated by his own project. Maybe once it actually started unraveling, then like I can't speak to his actions then, but I think the growth of it was really just based around that. For
Mhm.
Sue and Kyle, I certainly agree with your take there, right? Like it's crypto,
Mhm.
like not positioning for any pullbacks is.
Yeah.
Um, but then again, right? Like think like it's hard to kind of put yourself in the mental space, but like think about how we were thinking in November. Like the entire thesis around all of crypto and like Bitcoin in general is like you get this moment where there's an inflection point and it's like hyper Bitcoinization, and it's like now this is a standard, right? Like if that happens, Bitcoin legit goes like $1 million, right? They're like, or even the dollar isn't even worth anything. Um, so my take is that Sue and Kyle believed in that version of the future where there was going to be this inflection point and basically crypto would become this ultra massive black hole that eats everything and like prices go to the moon and like all the networks that matter run on crypto. Um, and they just wanted to have a ton of control over those networks and basically profit an egregious amount. I think that they thought this cycle was going to be that inflection point, like then call it the super cycle, right? But like that inflection point is something that a lot of people still think will happen. Like I'm not sure if it will. I hope it does. But like that point where crypto does become like it gets so much gravity and people come in. Um, I think they just thought that was going to be this cycle, and they positioned for it, and they were obviously wrong, and blew up in an incredible fashion. Um, but like I think they really did just believe this was going to be that inflection point where crypto comes in and eats the world, same way software ate the world. Um, like, and it just wasn't. Hopefully it happens in the
Yeah.
future, but it remains to be seen.
I think
but that's what they were positioned for. So
yeah, I think on like a very small version, I think it's so true in crypto. Like, I think there's this glorification or something of, you know, that meme, I see it all the time, like this time is different, and it is funny, but there is that thought of, okay, this time is different, like this cycle is different, but it's just so crazy to me that they've been in this whole thing for so long and they just didn't position as if this time isn't different. And like, if you ever trade on a weekend as well, it gets in my head as well, where I'm like, on a Saturday I've done well and like the money's going up and you've longed it or whatever, you've shorted, you've made money. In your head, you start thinking, okay, almost always Saturday is the opposite of Sunday or Sunday is the opposite of Saturday because the weekend is a scam. But there's always that feeling of like, okay, this weekend, we're not going to have the scam pump, but like 99% you do. So I think it's always just in crypto, I just can't believe, obviously that's a very small example, that you just wouldn't hedge what you're doing. It just seems completely insane to me. I don't really get it. Dan in the chat says to you, are you a TSM fan?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Love the TSM guys.
Yes.
I mean, to your point, right? Like
yeah.
There are 9 out of 10 funds were hedged in position, right? There was just by law of large numbers, there was bound to be at least one who is insanely nakedly long and blew up. So like, it's easy to point, but like a lot of people did play it correctly. So they exist. You just don't see those ones in the headlines, really.
Because we're at an hour, I can only ask you one more question. I think we could talk for ages. And I've said to you, if you ever want to join like for another episode, I think that'd be great, especially with another guest. What was I going to ask you? Oh, if UST didn't collapse, do you think we'd be in the same position? Like, in my head, I expected a pullback because of the reasons that I listed in terms of like last year's economy and stuff. I knew the inflation was crazy and whatever. I was like, we're going to go down. Do you think we'd still be in the same position? Like, you know, when you look and you're like, oh, everyone blames Do Kwon. Would we just not actually be at around 20K anyway, regardless of that happening? Or like, did that just accelerate it? That's what my view kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at it a couple different ways. I would say if we're looking at it from UST doesn't depeg, this all unfolds very, very differently than it did, right? Like UST doesn't depeg. There's a chance then 3AC doesn't get liquidated. There aren't these massive forced sellings. Like Do Kwon had all of that Bitcoin as well that he had to dump. I think a lot of funds survive that maybe blew up in the process. I would say it was like the room was kind of full of gas and like UST depegging just like lit the match, right? And then you get the explosion and the fireworks. Whether it be something else, right? Like if macro kept getting worse, and something else like went down incredibly fast, people get liquidated. Like there's nothing to say that there wasn't going to be another match. If I had to put a number on it, right, I would say we're in a similar position. Maybe Bitcoin's like 5K higher. I think just like with how the macro looks right now, like Luna depegging took a ton of confidence out of crypto.
That's true.
Like pretty much for the last 2 years, it was like crypto moon boys dunking on TradFi. Like our numbers only go up. You guys are dumb.
Yeah.
And they were basically waiting for something to be like, no, there's no confidence. It's all a scam. So I don't know. I do think we still trade similarly. Maybe the explosion isn't as intense. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. How do you look at it?
I think the speed is a big element. Like, I think we went down way faster than I imagined. I thought we'd just like slowly bleed out for the rest of the year. I don't think that we'd like die and then I don't know how the rest of the year plays now. my whole plan was like we'd go below 20 and then I'd average in, but then we kind of recovered out of 20 quite quickly. So I'm like, okay, maybe I've just missed the bottom. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really good point in terms of would 3AC have gone down? I don't think they would. Personally, I know they took a huge hit on that. Like I read the Bloomberg article even this morning, and I think they made a really interesting point. Like they interviewed them somehow, and Suzu said that Do Kwon was just a really good salesman, pretty much, and they really believed in him. Like he was a good salesman. Everyone was believing in him. Like he was memeing on people that were making like very good points, and like that whole bet thing. Like actually, again, hindsight trading, but you look back, you're like, why these like people like GCR making bets against it? It's quite obvious that there's probably an issue there. But even at the time, like you're listening to Do Kwon, he's such a good salesman. It reminds me of other people I'm not going to mention behind other crypto projects that are like really good salesmen, but the project's not great. But yeah, so I think 3AC probably would be here still, and that's why I still think we'd be in the same range. I don't know if we would have gone to like whatever we went to, 18 grand Bitcoin. I think that might not have happened. It's probably my view, but I still think this was inevitable, just not at that speed. Someone says, is it better for UST to blow up a few months ago or later? Which is quite an interesting question. When it could have been an even bigger bomb.
So that Mark Bissell, that's my intern.
Oh, wow, good question. Intern. Yeah.
Good question, Mark. Yeah, I would say rip the Band-Aid off is typically better in crypto. Like we're used to taking a 50% haircut in like a week. Like that's kind of why we're here and we survive, is because we can stomach that. I will say, so at the Bahamas conference, it was like the FTX Salt thing. I actually got to talk, myself and Sue got to talk for like 20 minutes. And I was basically like trying to form a thesis for our venture book. And I was talking to Sue about what he was looking at. And he was like, we're pretty much just crazy long Starknet and Luna ecosystem.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And he was like, he was basically saying like, those are their two, that's like their thesis. They're like, he's like, Luna is the most interesting thing happening in crypto right now. Like, I do think that their exposure there was massive. So like that blowing up definitely, like they might be here if Luna didn't. Like he was pretty bullish on it. And then hopefully Starknet still works. I guess did you see that their liquidator didn't exercise the token warrant for their Starkware?
That's why that's why I just said wow, because I was like, oh, because that makes sense. Because they like revealed that Starknet have a token then as well. It's just a mess. I think my answer to that question would be, I don't know. I think it's such a good question because I think that we would have been around the same price regardless. I would say, that it's probably better that it happened now, because I think we would have headed down to around 20K because of the economy and like our correlation to the stock market anyway. So then let's say we got down to this point and then it started depegging, then I think we might be in a much worse position. I think at least when everything happens at once, you can like blame it on, okay, this was like 1 week, one bad week. If these are like hitting off one per week, which it did feel like, but most of it was in like a small period. Let's say they're hitting off like once every 2 weeks, 3AC goes down, Luna goes down, it will feel like crypto's over and we'll probably be at a much lower price, I would assume. But it's all speculation. I have no idea. But yeah, my temptation would be to say that it was better that everything just got destroyed at the same moment. So then we can quickly kind of move past it. Because max pain most of the time is like slow bleeding out, actually. So I think we've been quite fortunate in a weird way that we had all of this happen at once. So then we can actually either just go sideways, which is nicer than every day waking up to like minus 20%, or like start to recover from here. And it makes it more of like an obvious bottom, I would think. But again, no one really knows. But yeah, we've gone over, so I'm going to have to end it, which is sad. But I feel like we could probably talk for a while. So definitely, if you want to come back on, there's loads of things we could probably talk about. If anyone's got any questions, really quickly, put them in the chat. Otherwise, I will do an outro. It's so cool that you've got that intern. I want to follow him. I hope he has good content. Yeah, he must do with those questions.
He's a stallion. Yeah. Super smart. Okay. Shout out Mark.
Okay, nice. But awesome. Yes, thank you so much for joining. Thank you everyone for listening in as well. And yeah, hope we get you on in the future. I'm going to get someone for next week, we have a few options. I just need to narrow down people to time. But the week after that, yeah, I have managed somehow to get Justin Sun for 2 weeks' time. So it'll be me and Justin Sun, and I might get someone else on as well. I don't know. We'll see about that. So subscribe so you don't miss that episode. I think that'll be a pretty crazy one. And hopefully I get like quite a lot of good people on. People who are very interested. I want to try and get analysts, people that are into NFTs, people like CMS Intern who has like a really interesting account and like kind of story. And obviously you do really interesting stuff now. You don't hear too much about CMS, or maybe that's just me. So yeah, I want to get different insights, and I'll try and get on maybe 1 or 2 guests per week for sure. So yeah, make sure you subscribe. There's links below if you want to sign up to Nansen. If you want to sign up to Nansen Lite, it's free, so you can use that link. If you want to trial Nansen Standard, so you get more access to pretty much everything for 1 week, it's only $9 as well, which is pretty cheap, I think. So yeah, you can use that one to sign up as well. And I think that's it. Someone says, do I need Nansen interns intern? It's no. At the moment, no. Like I have a lot of people asking me that. I've even got like Nansen intern accounts going on. Not at the moment. There might be a time, and I'm sure that I'll let people know. Someone says, make sure, well, when Pudgy PFP for CMS Intern? Today, yeah. This is our deal. One day. Pudgy Penguin. Okay, nice.
Respect
okay, have a great weekend, everyone. And I will see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.
Awesome.